There's also need for us to pause and to recognize what is happening to us. Because how many times have you heard that so and so just fell and that was the end? You know, I'm a warrior. I worry a lot. I'm also a warrior in the other sense that you see on the screen, but I do worry a lot. The other day, I had a situation that needed my attention, and I spent the whole day just worrying about it. I'm someone who cannot sleep if there's something that is stressing me out. I can't sleep at all. So as I was reflecting on what happened the other day, I thought, you know what? This is something that we need to talk about, because I feel stress is one of those areas, or is one of those things that we don't necessarily take seriously, but what we don't realize are the far-reaching consequences of stress. The issue of stress goes much deeper than we realize. So that's what I want to break down in this video. I want to talk about stress as one of those challenges that people often ignore until it is too late. I'm sorry if this sounds alarming, but it is that serious. So that's what I want us to break down in this video. And as I always say, when I talk about these health issues, I always advise people not to watch in a hurry or to skip parts of the video, so that everything comes together nicely, everything makes sense. So anyway, what is stress? Let us start there.
Yeah, great question. Stress is something hard to define in very concrete terms, but I will simplify the definition of stress. It is really a struggle with what is, what was, and what will be. It is when we feel ourselves smaller than a situation that we are facing. It generally stems from a lack of control or a lack of meaning, or absence of a balance between our demands and our resources.
Now, I want us to pause and look at this statement very closely, and I want us to link it to our situation. I really want to zoom in on the problem. The statement that I'm talking about is smaller than what we are facing. I want us to examine closely our lives, how we live abroad as immigrants, whether you're in the UK, US, Canada, Australia, wherever you are. But mostly I speak for United Kingdom because that's where I live. Are we always in control of the situation? Do we have control of the things that happen to us? Most of the time, do we have control of those things? I want us to look at, for example, the visa situation. And we have seen what has been happening in the last few months concerning the visa rule changes. 1 minute, you can do this, the next minute you can't do this. 1 minute this is allowed, the next minute it's banned. Immigration rules or visa rules keep changing all the time. And when they do, we just go with it. We just move with the changes. We have to adapt to those changes. And by the way, a bit of stress every now and again, it's okay. Sometimes you need a bit of stress to motivate you, to get you going, to actually do something about the situation, to make it better. You need to feel that stress. You need that adrenaline to kick in.
Our brains and our bodies are expertly designed to manage acute stress. We are built for managing stress. However, nowadays, so for example, let's talk a little bit about the fight or flight response that the amygdala governs, right? Back when we were all cave people, we were in the forest, we saw a tiger. You would either flee or fight. And there's all of these bodily mechanisms that happen when you are engaged in the fight or flight response. Your heart beats faster. Your lungs start taking in more oxygen. Blood is shunted away from your vital organs and it goes to your muscles. So you can either fight or you can run. Your pupils dilate. There's so many biological, physiological mechanisms that happen with the fight or flight response. Then when that acute threat is over, so you either have fought or you have flown away from the tiger, you have a moment to recalibrate. Modern day times, there are no acute threats anymore. All of our tigers are chronic. Bills, financial troubles, marital conflicts or relationship problems, health issues. So there's this constant low hum of that fight or flight response in the distance.
I can give another scenario of the cost of living. Everything has gone up nowadays. Things are really tough, and that's for everyone. Whether you're an immigrant or not, things are tough for everybody, but especially for immigrants. And things get even more dicey if you are an immigrant and you're still waiting for your papers. Or for example, you're an immigrant and you work for an agency and you rely on that agency to call you up to offer you some shifts. Let's say that week they haven't called you yet. Maybe it's now Tuesday or Wednesday or even Thursday, and they still haven't called you to offer you some shifts. You can get so stressed out. This happened to me when I came to this country. I joined an agency, and obviously I relied on that agency to provide me work. There was 1 week, I'll never forget that week. There was 1 week I was just waiting by the phone, and the phone was silent. Monday went by. Tuesday came and went. Wednesday, I was on the phone. Please, I'm begging you. Can you please find a shift for me because I have to pay my bills? And they said, we'll call you if we get something. At the moment, it's quiet. And when you're told such things, what can you do? All you have to do is wait because there's nothing else you can do. Of course, you can look for another job, but that takes time as well. So came Friday, spent the whole day waiting by the phone. Again, the phone was silent. 8:30 p.m., I thought, you know what? This is the situation. I resigned to my fate that week. I resigned to the fact that I wasn't going to earn any money. So I started settling down. By 9 p.m., I was in my blankets. And guess what? Phone call. Better there's a shift. You better run now. I had no choice but to spring from my bed, put my coat on, out of the door. I had no choice. That is what I did. So this is our reality here in the UK. Sometimes we've got no say in the matter, if not most of the time, especially when it comes to these issues. Sometimes we've got no say in the matter whatsoever. We just have to deal with it, basically. So this causes a lot of stress and anxiety. Mind you, we've got other stresses as well. When we relocate, we deal with many things, including culture shock. Of course, everyone experiences culture shock. It's a normal part of the process of relocating. Whether you're from Africa or wherever you are from, you will experience culture shock. There will be a period of adjusting, and that's actually expected. And you can even say that it's normal. It's just part of the process. However, we have a lot of other things to contend with. When we move from our countries of origin, again, we deal with things like the pressure to work, to perform, and to achieve. Because if you're somebody who sold their house back home, you sold your house, you sold your cattle, you sold your car, you sold your property back home to come to the UK to work. If you are in such a situation, chances are that when you come, you want to work and you want to replace those things somehow. And also chances are that there's pressure that you give yourself within yourself, nobody else. You give yourself the pressure to now prove that you made the right decision. And also perhaps you've got the pressure to prove to other people, those people who watched you sell your house, who watched you sell your cattle, your car, everything you owned in Zimbabwe. Now you've got the pressure to prove to them that you actually made the right decision. Look at me now. I'm in a much better position. I'm earning this money. My life is fabulous. I mean, let's call a thing a thing. These things happen. Sometimes we compare ourselves to other people. We look at other people, what they have, what they're accomplishing back home, or even here in the UK. We look at them and look at our lives and we compare. Sometimes we ask ourselves, what is wrong with me? Why can't I have what they have? Why are things taking so long to happen for me? But what we don't realize is that people earn money in different ways. If you know, you know. So when we are in the business of comparing ourselves to other people, that can cause us a great deal of stress.
We can talk about the differences between healthy stress and unhealthy stress. But when it starts becoming chronic, that is when burnout sets in. Your brain doesn't get time to rest or recharge. It's not like a tiger in the forest where you fight, flee, and then there's like a respite time. So it's just ongoing in the background at a low hum at all times.
Other challenges that we have to deal with include isolation, loneliness, racism, discrimination. I mean, I can give you a whole list. I have made videos, several videos on this channel, and I made playlists so that you can easily find those videos. And these challenges cause us a great deal of stress. Some immigrants are doing jobs they don't want to do, and I've spoken about this issue in several of my videos. People, when they come here, they've got expectations. They assume that just because they were a teacher, they were a doctor back home, or a CEO of a company, or accountant, whatever job you may come up with, people assume that simply because they were doing that job and they've got a certificate for it, when they come or when they relocate, they are going to find that job and start doing that job. only to discover that actually things don't necessarily work like that. Of course, there are people who are doing their jobs, those jobs they had back home, they found similar jobs and they are doing those jobs and they are happy. But that's not the case for most people. For some people, their qualifications are not automatically recognized. Sometimes they may have to do a couple of courses to top up or to reach that qualification status that is recognized here in the UK. Sometimes they may have to do or to work as an apprentice. Sometimes they may have to start everything from scratch. So you can imagine what that person goes through on a daily basis if they have to wake up every morning to face that job that they don't want. So this stress and anxiety, if it's not properly managed, can lead to depression. This is why we have got high levels of depression among immigrants. It's because of reality versus expectations. What we thought we were going to accomplish when we relocated to the UK, we are now finding that things are harder than we anticipated. So when you realize that your dream is now an impossible dream, when you start to realize that, you can easily sink into depression. And I'll give an example of my generation. People who grew up in my time. We grew up in Zimbabwe at a time when we threw food in the bin. We grew up in a time when if you went to school to get a qualification, you were almost guaranteed of a job after that. After you get your certificate, your diploma, degree, PhD, master's, after you get that, you were guaranteed a job. There were other things that we grew up experiencing. We are a generation that experienced what childhood is really like. We could go outside, play pada, play nodo. We grew up at a time when we didn't rely on cell phones for fun. We played games to entertain ourselves. We went to meet our friends and spent quality time together. We didn't FaceTime. We didn't call each other on the phone and call that quality time. No, that was not our generation. Our generation did things, went outside, played, we climbed trees, and it was so much fun. So because we are that generation, now we are here and we are realizing that things have changed. Our kids cannot even go outside to play freely. If they want to go to play, they have to go to a park. Sometimes you have to drive them to the park to play. And sometimes you have to watch them. You have to stay there with them and watch them. You can't just leave them to roam around. So the times have changed. So because we are that generation, perhaps we miss that and we long for that sometimes. And because of that, we are comparing what life was like to what life is now. And maybe we want to give our kids what our parents gave us. We want them to experience what we experienced but cannot. It frustrates us and it actually makes us sad. It makes me sad. And as I said, if that situation, everything, the challenges that I've talked about, if they are not managed properly, can lead to stress, anxiety, which eventually becomes depression. I just want to emphasize that stress affects everyone, even though I'm talking about immigrants in this video. And also, stress that's not dealt with can lead to other health challenges as well. Challenges such as high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, obesity, diabetes, and so forth. Now, there's a lot to cover here when it comes to stress and other health challenges linked to stress. There's a lot to cover. But the most important take from this video is it's important to recognize what is happening to us, especially when we talk about health. Those things are happening to us. Sometimes we may not realize what is happening or the consequences of what happens to us. We may not realize the consequences. Sometimes we may look at the situation and think, oh, it's fine, it's okay, I'll just carry on. Because I know us Africans, we are resilient people. I mean, we've dealt with all kinds of things, even from back home. We are resilient. So sometimes we just say, oh, you know, it's fine, let's just crack on. We just keep things moving because that is our nature, that's how we are. But there's also need for us to pause and to recognize what is happening to us. Because how many times have you heard that so and so just fell and that was the end? Even recently, there was a case that I heard that someone just fell and that was the end of it. There are many cases like that. So this is why I make these videos. It's not to alarm you. It's to raise awareness because some illnesses, some diseases, or some risk factors are silent. And because they are silent, that makes them even more deadly. So as I said, the most important take is to be aware of these things, to be aware of what that stress is doing to you. And once you are aware, as they say, if you know better, you do better. Because if you know something, then chances are that you're going to do something about it, or you're going to prevent it from happening further, or from happening in the first place. And another thing as well I want to mention before I go is that it's important to prioritize self-care. You want to look after yourself. Take time to rest. Pamper yourself. Don't just work, work, work. You can watch the video I made the other day about why we are miserable. I made that video for that very reason. We don't take time to look after ourselves. Yes, we're here to work. We want to raise the money. We want to do the shifts. We've got goals. I get it. But at the same time, don't forget to live, because this is the life. This is your life. There's no guarantee that you will actually get to enjoy that money that you're stashing in the bank. As I said, life is not guaranteed, and life, as we know, is too short. So look after yourself, handle stress appropriately, and don't let things fester. Don't let things deteriorate. That's why stress has to be managed. So with that being said, we've come to the end of this video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.